Really heard it, so he's sitting there and see what it feels like. See, it's got a rear view camera. See the rear view camera. So you can see behind him. Yeah. See, how cool is that? Yeah, the steering wheel goes on there, but it's really hard to get in and out when the steering wheel is on. So we just leave it off to the side now.
Does it really drive?
Oh yeah.
Can I drive it?
That would be really. You want to?
I really do want to.
I'm really tempted.
I think you should.
I'll tell you what, if you come back out later, I will let you drive.
I will do that.
Okay.
Good deal.
It's really fun to drive without the array on. Because the array goes on like a trailer.
Oh, really?
So we can just drive this little part. So
Yes.
get out of there.
Where parking lot, guys?
Go ahead, jump in there. Have a look. What do you want to see what it looks like when the top is closed? It's right there, yeah.
Ew, don't let
Here.
that get
Here, I'll close it so you can see what it looks like. What do you think? You guys want a chance to sit in there?
What? Sit in there? Oh, and you go first.
Come on, little buddy.
My back
Climb
hurts.
right in.
My back hurts.
Climb right on. Back hurts?
Yes, my back
You're
hurts.
little.
Yes. I am, but my back hurts.
See what it feels
Why don't you hold the microphone up pretty close? There you go. Tell me your name and spell it.
My name is Tom Pelletier. That's Pelletier. Okay, I actually live in Burnsville, Minnesota, but it's a south suburb of the Twin Cities. Our school is located just south of St. Paul, the capital of Minnesota. This car here, we've taken about a year to build it, a little bit under a year to build it. It's made of carbon fiber. That process making the body actually takes a long time. First we start out with foam. We sand that down, we cut it down to get the shape right. We want to get that shape. And we spray some stuff over it. Won't get it too far into that, but spray some stuff over it. Sand that really, really smooth. You have to get all of the flaws out so the body doesn't show it. Because if you leave like bumps and stuff, that'll show when you get the carbon fiber part. Then after we have that all smooth, we make a fiberglass mold that takes like 6 or 7 layers of fiberglass over it, and we take out the foam. We take out the foam, and then we have the mold ready to go. And then the actual carbon fiber part of it is probably the easiest part of making the body. It's the quickest part. You can get it done in under a week with no problem. But all the parts that lead up to that is the hardest part. The frame we made like early August, late July last year. It's made of chromoly steel. We have our own tubing bender. We bent it, welded it. Mr. Westlake welded it for us. He's our teacher. And the design, if you can look at the other solar cars or other solar cars you might have seen, it's a little bit different. Back in 2005, our team actually made a car, entered this race, completed all the miles, but it was a typical solar car. So we decided to come back this year and make something that people might actually be able to use, do something a little bit different, because we wanted to. What's the fun in doing the same thing over and over again? But we made it like this. We have the trailer. It connects to the top of the solar car. And we made it like this so like if somebody's living in an urban or suburban setting where they don't have to drive too far, or they could leave the solar panel at work if they work in an office, and then just drive the car to work, plug it into the solar panel, let it charge up during the day, and then to come out, unplug it, drive it back home, drive it back to work, plug it in, do the same thing day after day, maybe take the panel home on the weekends. Basically, we're going for something that's a true zero-emission vehicle and also actually practical to use as opposed to having a solar car. Like, I think people might actually want to drive it. And we made everything except for the paint job was done by Ross Johnson. He's apparently very big in the hot rodded places. He does a paint job for us every year for free. This year we actually got sponsored by Valspar. It's a new eco-friendly paint they have that I think we're the first thing that's painted with. It's just as you can see, it looks fantastic.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me about what kind of batteries does this car use, and how long will it take to charge? How long will it run on a full charge at what speeds? How fast will it go? And how much does it cost to build?
Okay. Well, I'll start out with the batteries are a lithium iron magnesium phosphate, or lithium phosphate for easier, less of a mouthful. But they run about if we didn't have the solar panel on and they were on full charge, they'd run for about 70 hours. Right now we have the car geared for about 43 miles an hour at max speed, but we could gear it to go faster. With the panels, it depends. How long it takes to charge really depends on the quality of the sunlight you have. There's a lot of variation on that. But if we wanted to, it'd be a really quick thing to do. We could actually just make an electric plug, splice it in there, and get it so like if the sun's not very good that day, you could just plug it into the wall, charge it, and be an electric vehicle too. So I suppose you could call that a solar electric hybrid, I guess. I mean, there'd be some emissions obviously from using the power plant's electricity, but it'd still be much lower compared to a gasoline powered car.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, to build it, it actually cost us a little bit under $15,000, actually.
What are the solar panels themselves made of?
Solar panels themselves, well, all solar cells are made out of a silicon base. They put little impurities in it because silicon by itself doesn't conduct electricity. So all solar panels are made with like silicon and then like a little impurities in it so it can conduct charges. Our cells are about 17% efficient. They take 17% of the energy the sun hits down on them. So that works. And what else do you want to know? How'd you make them more efficient? Well, we ourselves as high school students really couldn't do that. I don't know exactly how they are making them more efficient. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there working on them. There are more efficient cells out there, like the ones NASA use, I think are like 45% efficient, but those are ridiculously expensive at this point in time. I'm sure in the future they will get cheaper, as all technology does, though.
All right, thanks. Okay, hold it up a little closer and tell me your name and what school you represent.
I'm 5 Hanshaw. I'm from the Ouray County High School Solar Car Team, which is from Ouray and Ridgeway, Colorado.
And spell your name?
5 is actually the digit, the number 5, and Hanshaw is Hanshaw.
So you go by a digit in your name?
Yes, I do. It's family tradition. My mother's name is 9.
All right. And how long it took to build and how much it cost to build and how fast does it go and what batteries does it use?
Okay. The car goes about 20 miles an hour right now. We're going to step up the gears to go to hopefully 23 to 25 tomorrow when it's all downhill. It took us about a month and a half to build this last year before last year's race. We completely built it from the ground up again. And it was a lot of work, but it really paid off eventually. And we run on worker batteries. They're 20 amp hour, 12 volt batteries that are pretty small. And it shaved 100 pounds off the batteries we used the year before. As you can see, we're a steel tubing frame, which saved us 2 days ago when we got hit by a car. That was fun. No, our driver, Cole McKenzie, who just is over there, was uninjured and got out of the car. Unfortunately, the back end of the Suburban that ran into was on the car and lifted her back end and her rear wheels up off the ground on the battery box, which is aluminum, and therefore was crushed on one side, but we bent it out with a hammer. And they destroyed one panel, which we replaced with our only spare.
So the top speed of the car right now is about 20 miles an hour?
That's correct, it's 20 top speed.
And what kind of efficiency do you get out of your solar panels?
Well, in the Classic division, you can't have more than 17% efficiency, so ours are 16.9% efficient. These are BP solar panels. They're not made anymore. So, unfortunately, since that was our last spare, we either have to find more or get a whole new array.
And what do you mean BP solar panels?
British Petroleum solar panels.
Oh, those people.
Yes, that BP.
Yeah, that people. All right. And you guys are from Ridgeway and Uray?
Yeah.
Is the sunlight better up there at 8,000 feet?
Not particularly in the mountains. Of course, we're in a valley, so a lot of the sunlight is only towards noon. 8 to about 7 in the summer. In the winter, we don't get a lot of sunlight because, of course, everything's shaded by the tall mountains around us. But the quality, I think, is a little better because up there, you don't burn as easily. Down here, we really do.
Now, are you a senior? Graduated?
I'm going to be a senior this year, and our team is made up of 2 seniors, 2 graduated seniors, 2 going into seniors, and going into sophomore.
Okay. And how big is your team?
We're 5 people strong, which is 1 more than we had last year.
Okay. And your plans is to go into engineering or science of some sort?
Well, personally, I want to go into astronomical physics because I enjoy that.
Okay.
I know that our captain wants to be a shop machine welder. Some of these guys want to be a physicist. Some of us just don't know what yet.
Okay.
So.
All right. Okay. Start by saying your name and spelling it for me.
Okay, my name is Jason, Jason, Rosen, Rosen.
Okay. And tell us about your school briefly, and tell us about the car.
All right, well, our school, we all go to South Plantation High School. And within South Plantation High School, there's an Everglades Restoration and Environmental Science Magnet Program, which is really the solar car program is a part of the magnet program because it's part of the environmental sciences, keeping the environment healthy. So the solar car program is both a club and a class. Kids can join the club after school or take a class in school. And then we work on the car during school, after school, over the summer, and then bring it to these national races.
And tell us about the car. How is it powered? What kind of batteries does it have?
Okay, well, we have our own array on top, as you can see, and then that powers just some regular 12-volt batteries. We have 5 12-volt batteries, and then those charge the batteries power the motor, and then we're off to go.
And how far will this car go in full charge? And how fast will it go? And how much does it weigh?
Well, it depends. On a full charge at night, if it was getting no charge whatsoever, it could go about 30 miles or so just on battery power. And it can, but when it's in the sun, it keeps it relatively charged. When you ask how fast it goes, we like to keep it at a certain speed so that we don't always drain our voltage, especially on the cross-country trip when we're going up and down hills. That's not as good for the batteries. It requires more power from the batteries. So we try to keep a speed that, like, solar input equals motor output, and we don't overall lose a charge, which it's really kind of hard to tell what it is on this race because we're always going up and down hills, but we think it might be around 25 miles per hour.
What, you know, the race is danger high voltage. How much voltage does that race put out?
It puts out about 100 volts or so. So
And what kind of amperage?
amperage gets in full sun.
Yeah.
The top rating it should get is about 16, 17 amps.
Okay, so that's a pretty good charge.
Yeah.
And what kind of efficiency level do you have on those cells?
Well, if we got the grade A, the good cells of this brand, we have Soneva cells. If we had cells right out of the factory, we would be at about 16.9% efficient. But we actually got grade B cells that were kind of beat up a little bit, so now they're about 15.5.
How much did it cost you guys to build this car?
This car, it's kind of hard to say because it's a project that we keep improving upon over the years. It cost, let's see, I'd say about $50,000 to $60,000 with all the modifications we made.
And you've won some awards with this car?
Yep. Last year at the last track race, we came in first place in the nation, which was very cool. The year before, we came in third place, so we're kind of working our way up as we make improvements. And so now this year, we're trying to maintain our title as the first in the nation champions, and we hope we can do that.
My name is Alan Phipps, Allan Phipps. And where am I looking?
You're looking at me.
At you, not at the camera though, right?
You can look at me or the camera.
Okay.
But anyway, well, tell me, this is Plantation. Where's Plantation?
Plantation is in South Florida. It's kind of a suburb of Fort Lauderdale, which is just north of Miami.
Okay. And this isn't the first car these kids have built then?
No, we built Solar Night 1 and raced cross-country from Texas to New York about 3 years ago in 2007, and we completed that race. It was a struggle, but we completed it. Since then, we built from the ground up a brand new car, Solar Night 2, which is what we have here. It debuted in the track race 2 years ago, took third in the nation in the Classic division. Then we brought it back, made some modifications. It took first in the nation, and now we're here to defend our title on the open road.
And I asked Jason this, but maybe you have a sense of how much does this car cost to build?
It's hard to say. We try never to pay full price for parts. We try and get a lot of things donated and a lot of in-kind donations. We probably have about $30,000 to $40,000 invested in the actual construction of the car, and then it costs roughly $15,000 to $20,000 to compete in a cross-country race like this with hotel, gas, food. It's kind of ironic. It takes a lot of gas money to race a solar car.
Why is that?
You have to have a lead vehicle and a chase vehicle to protect, to provide an envelope of protection around your solar car, as very, very crucial. So it takes two vehicles plus a support trailer, and you're carrying a lot of tools and spare parts, etc. So you're carrying a lot of weight. You get pretty bad gas mileage.
Tell me one other thing. You guys ride the back roads, right?
Most of the time, yes, we're on those back roads, but there have been some pretty busy back roads this past couple of days.
Okay. And do you know what the route is? I mean, or can I talk to somebody about what your route will be? Say, what was your route into Amarillo, and where's your route out? Where are you headed?
I am just a sponsor, so you'd have to ask a couple of my students for the route. It's a student-driven project, so I let them do as much as they can to run the entire show.
Well, tell me your name and spell it.
Frank Cabe, C-A-B-E.
Okay. And Frank, you are part of this team. What high school is this?
We actually aren't a high school team. We're a demonstration vehicle for the race. So we used to be high school. My father used to teach at a high school up in New York, and now we bring cars down and run them along with the race and kind of help out with the media and everything.
And where about in New York?
Around Newburgh. It's about an hour north of the city.
Hudson Valley?
Yep, that's right.
All right. And tell us a little bit about this car, and tell us why the top panel is off.
We're actually working on our motor controller right now and trying to get it to go at a higher speed. So we're just taking the top off and working on some wiring. Our reverse switch might be faulty. and we're not really sure. We blew a fuse yesterday, and now we're kind of making up for lost time, trying to.
Tell us about how this car is powered.
It's a solar car. We're running 48-volt motor and motor controller with 48 volts batteries and silicon cells from Siemens, I believe, and you know, the sun powers the batteries, and they power the motor.
What kind of batteries are you running?
Just lead acid. No, yeah, lead acid batteries. Nothing fancy. So.
What kind of time do you get out of each charge, and what kind of speed do you get out of the car?
Well, typically we had this car here last year, and we had a 220 mile day with it on the track actually. So we're trying to get that again this year, but we haven't run it in a year, so it's, you know, we're working out bugs with it, and hopefully there's a 180 mile day on day 7 of this race, so we're going to try to make all those miles with it.
Okay.
Should be able to do them, but we have to work out a few little problems before it does that.
Okay, let's talk about, first of all, give me your full name and spell it so I get it right.
Okay.
We also write this as an article. We don't just shoot the video.
It's Dr. Lehman Marks, Lehman Marks.
Okay. And you are from?
The Winston School in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
And this is the Hunt Winston School Solar Car Challenge. Hunt Oil, really they like to say Hunt Consolidated, is our title sponsor for the event.
Okay. And tell us how many cars are in the race. Tell me a little bit about the route.
Okay.
And the purpose of the race.
22 teams from across the country filed an intent to race. 12 made the cut, which means 12 qualified for the event. And that is something pretty significant. I like to say then that all of these 12 teams are winners because they've been able to not only build a car, but build it to the specifications that we set out. We have one of the tightest sets of rules of any event dealing with solar anywhere in the world. Our race starts in Dallas at the Texas Motor Speedway, and we travel to Boulder. We're going to end up at Folsom Stadium at University of Colorado, and about 900 miles driving and about something on the order of 10 million people along the way.
Okay. And you're traveling mainly the back roads?
Right. We don't travel on interstates. The best road we can have is a 2-lane road with good shoulders on it. But that's not always necessarily the case. We've got a really challenging day tomorrow. I worked very hard to provide a variety of roads for the kids. This is our 15th event. Some of the teams have really advanced, moved forward with their stuff, gotten better technology, better equipment, more skills to strategize what's coming up. So I've got 2 or 3 days built into this that's designed to separate the men from the boys, as they say. One of those days is tomorrow, because when we go north to Dumas, there are some very serious mountains in there, and that kind of thing is really treacherous for solar cars. It develops a real need for kids to learn about how to strategize, how to handle the energy. We call it power management control.
What do you have any material with the route on it?
We do. We have a race booklet right over there that shows the different cities we go through, and has a map in there. That would be helpful, I'm sure.
How long did it take to plan this event? I mean, this is your deal, so
right. We started the planning on this back in last October. And that's when we first start some new teams for this event. There's one over here called the Byron Nelson High School. It's just about behind me. That started in a planning session last October, and they've been very successful to be able to have a car in their first year of competition. That was when we sort of finished last cycle of the event. We had a closed track race at the Texas Motor Speedway last year, so we start thinking about where we're going to go. And during that period of time, I've spent about 10,000 miles on the road looking at different courses. And one of the best places I found for us to have a mid-route stop would be here in Amarillo.
Okay.
So that's why we came. That's why we're company today.
Right. Okay. And I want to go back to something you said. You talked about qualifying.
Yes.
Tell me, You talked about teams making the cut. What do they have to do to make the cut?
Well, I want to emphasize this is an education program. It's not a shop program. It's designed to teach kids engineering and technology and how to take words and translate it into an end product. So we want to make sure that the students who take part in this have developed those skills prior to going to college. So we have very detailed instructions, guidelines, updates. We do these curriculum workshops. We teach them electrical engineering and mechanical engineering, give them the rudimentary information along that line. And then they have to prove to us that they followed it. During our scrutineering or qualifying days, then we have teams at 7 stations who look through the car, test whether or not it can brake in time, whether or not it can handle the lateral stresses, can they get the car on and off a trailer, does it meet all the dimension requirements, have they met the guidelines for solar car, whatever. And the reason why he's doing that is I found that I'm taking a medication that's sun sensitive, and so the reason I'm so red is that it creates this prickly heat, and the more I'm in the sun, the brighter I get.
All right.
Okay. I'm going to eat here.
The white one?
Yeah, and I was just going to say just pan slowly across like that.
Okay. And you want it all